Through her experiences in managing an apartment building, our next guest found she had a knack for analyzing and correcting problems her building owner was having with his rental property. Seeing the need for a qualified professional roving manager, she organized a company known as the Landlords Rental Service, and the rest is history. Meet Gayle Schwark. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Gayle.
Close enough, close enough.
It's close enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gayle, I had a question. First of all, what are some of the typical problems that landlords may find in the renting of their property? What happens?
Most often what we come up against are principals of property that have problems with vacancies.
Mm-hmm.
They come to us and they ask us how they can correct the problems, and they have problems with tenants and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so they're really bothered by some noisome problems, and they can't figure out on their own exactly what the problem is with the vacancy factor?
Yeah.
Okay. How does your company help? In other words, pretend, let's role play a little bit, pretend that I have a problem and I call Gayle in and I say, Gayle, you know, I have half of my units are not rented. What can you do for me? What's wrong with my building?
The first thing we do, we look at the management of the building, find out if they're doing their job, if the resident manager is available, that sort of thing. Then we go to the marketplace. We do surveys of the area to find out what's going on out there. Then we bring a program back to the owner or the principal and present a marketing strategy and program that will help him with the problem that he has in his
Well, what are
building.
some of the problems that might, let's take your first point, problems with the neighborhood. What are some of the problems that you might typically find in a neighborhood?
Well, if you have a bad element in your neighborhood, that's one of the toughest things to overcome. We have done some properties that have had that element involved, not naming any specific areas.
Right, I understand.
Buildings have problems with vacancy factors because of the drug, situation in certain parts of the valley and other elements, and those areas are difficult to deal with. You have to be a little bit more creative in terms of your strategy to fill those vacancies than you would say in a building that you have in Santa Monica.
All right. Well, how do you, I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you deal with that? What do you do? What are some of the things you might be able to do?
A landlord doesn't often like to hear this, but they have to do something that will entice your good tenant into the building. Most often it will mean drop the rent.
Oh, that's a bad word.
Yes, it is, and you're right.
Yeah.
But when you have 9 or 10 apartment buildings on the same street who are facing the same problem in terms of the element in the neighborhood, you have to be a little bit more creative in terms of move-in for people and that sort of thing. A lot of owners will offer first, last security. They may give a microwave away or a refrigerator away, that sort of thing. What we try to do is we try not to give anything away at all. Get the rent that the owner is looking for and be a little bit more flexible in allowing people to move in. As an example, if you have a building that's renting for $1,500 a month, you're charging first, last, and security, and there's a building next to you that's doing the same thing. One of the things that we may try to do is possibly move them in for simply security.
Right. So you're trying to work with the person renting to make sure.
It is the key in some areas to filling a building quickly with good qualified tenants.
Yeah, I would think the qualifying of tenants probably is crucial to this whole matter, because it doesn't work for you to bring in and fill the building with tenants and then all of a sudden find that one by one they're not paying their rents and it's taking you 6 months to evict.
One of the things that the Landlords Rental Service is very particular about, for lack of a better word.
Right.
We screen the tenants to the point where, as I say, they squeak, because we want good tenants. We want people who are going to be in the building and pay the rent. We don't want to put someone in a building that's not going to pay and that's going to create problems. The Landlords Rental Service was built on the reputation of putting a good tenant in a building.
Now, do you get involved with the physical aspects of the building? It's hard to tell a landlord, for instance, that maybe he's got to do something with the look of his building. Do you get involved with that aspect too?
Yeah, we do. Just recently we had a client who was having problems with vacancies, and one of the first things that we noticed about his building is that the building was so overgrown by the foliage in the front that you could barely see the building. People were driving by the property and not noticing it.
It's there somewhere,
absolutely,
maybe.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so, and then cosmetically, as I suppose you're able to recommend some kind of approach to repainting, making the building an attractive place?
We don't often request,
that
that owner repaint his property. We do look at the properties aesthetically to find whether they're working or not. But I try not to get into telling an owner that he has to pay $25,000 to paint the front of his building. I mean,
he doesn't want to hear that.
No. We've got to get the money coming into the property before he can do that sort of thing.
Well, what is your service area for your service?
We are in the San Fernando Valley. We work West Los Angeles, Santa Monica areas.
Okay. What is maybe one of the toughest things you have to face in dealing with landlords and being brutally honest with them about their building?
One of the toughest things that we face is going to a client or a principal of property and stating to them, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. Most often, if there are 3 or 4 or 5 things that we need in order for them to repair the problem and to alleviate the stress factor in their building, they'll do 1 or 2 of those. But in order for the program to work in its entirety, they cannot pick and choose which of the 3 or 4 or 5 they're going to implement. They must do them all, and in the steps that they are requested by our service.
And
otherwise, it's not going to work.
Do they sign off on the piece of paper saying, I will do this, that Gayle says I must do this?
Well, most often when I sign a contract with a principal, I let them know, your building is effectively mine for the term of the contract. And I'm not here to spend anything, any money, that you're not aware of. We clear everything with the client first. We don't make one single move without them being aware of it. But they need to be able to, at times, not because of the money factor, but because they've been in the business for so long and they're so used to doing things in a particular way that a new face comes along and they just go, oh my gosh, I can't do this. They just don't want to let go, and they have to. They have to, because the fact that they've not let go has been a contributing factor to the problem that they're having.
Now, how do we contact you for Landlords Rental Service?
We're located in the Valley. The number there is 818-774-1258.
Right, and you have a number of representatives that can work with landlords in the Valley. And
if they have a problem, just call us.
Great.
Just call us.
Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Some final thoughts after this message.